Getting ready for the last round of this league with blue-red murktide. Yeah, it's an interesting deck. I'm so bad at playing it, but it's one I should probably learn just due to power level. I think one of the things I was realizing as I was playing the Amulet matchup is just like how bad this deck is at dealing with an endurance, just like a single endurance. Like if my opponent hadn't like let me counterspell it, so like waited to want my turn to cast it, and then maybe I have to hold on to the counterspell. Maybe I have to cast the counterspell anyway, but like if they had cast it off Cavern or something. Makes me want to play a deck that gets to play Endurance. So I'll keep this in bottom heat. Really love the Ledger Shredders. They've been really impressive. This looks like it might be a mirror, but could be something else. What do I want to discard here? Could discard an island and hope that Iteration hits an island. I don't think I'm supposed to discard Iteration. I may come to regret this, but I'm going to go ahead and discard the Bold. So part of my thought process on waiting on the Bauble here was it can inform me if I want to like dash a Ragavan if I play it. If I draw a Ragavan over like iterationing. So, like, see, now I have this Ragavan. I know I don't want to dash it because there's just a land on top. Wow, that's unfortunate. I guess I'll put Counterspell to hand. Hoping to hit a land drop off that iteration. So I want to get this Murktide up to at least 7 when I cast it. because I really think it's very likely that they have an Unholy Heat. I'll lead on Consider. Draw that. Play a Ragavan. Hold up Counterspell. Can't get the Murktide out of heat range yet, so... Let the bolt happen. We gotta back up Ragavan. So they probably have a counterspell of their own. But this will at least make our Murktide resolve. I could get really fancy and dash Ragavan here. I don't think they block, because I don't think they want to trade their Murktide for a Ragavan and a Heat. But I think I'm probably just better off going Iteration into Murktide. Trying to maybe hit an Otawara or another Murktide. Well... guess it's Pierce to hand. This sure smells like an Unholy Heat. It's kind of so obvious that there's an Unholy Heat here, because they would have attacked with Murktide if they didn't have Unholy Heat. So I'm just going to not block. I can always go for the block next turn. Okay. I think we can accept we're dead to Bolt. Yeah, this was a little telegraphed. If they have Charm, we get to pierce it. So,
Sorry. I'm sorry, Griffey.
so Unholy Heat would be good. Another Murktide would be good. Otawara is not bad. And pass the turn. I think there's a reasonable chance they cast a second Murktide and then I Otawara the first Murktide and that works out for me. Or they Otawara my Murktide. Okay. Come on, expressive iteration. Can't win them all. Am I supposed to try to have delirium or try not to have delirium? Good question that I don't have the answer to. So I've got 3 instants or sorceries. They've got 1, 2, 3 as well. What if I just play the DRC and hold the Murktide? And then if they Murktide, maybe I can hit an instant or sorcery and have the bigger Murktide? Okay, so I can Murktide to get rid of my delirium. By exiling the baubles. I have to let them connive. That into my graveyard. And I'll just hold the bauble, and I can use the bauble to create flying if I need to. Don't want to give myself delirium if I don't have to. Oh, I took out all the instants, didn't I? Well, I miscounted for Delirium. It was a cool play in theory, but didn't work in practice. Oh, wow. And if I had drawn, I could have heated the murktide and binned something, binned the iteration, potentially. Okay. I like the Jace, I like the disputes, I like the subtleties, the hearses, and the lantern. I will cut the DRCs and the pierces. And maybe not subtlety. Maybe subtlety's bad. Try it like this. Turn 1 Ragavan into turn 2 Ragavan. How can I lose? I kind of like dashing the Ragavan. There's a lot of 1-drops I can hit, and if I don't hit anything, the treasure is still useful. They have their own Ragavan. I'll dash it. Offer the trade. I think I'm okay with this trade. If they have another Ragavan to dash, it's maybe a little bad for me, but I'll Soul Guide Lantern. Can get pierced, but it can't get Flusterstormed or maybe I'm supposed to go for the heat to potentially make a murktide smaller. I just figured this way keeps them further from Delirium. Honestly, I'm not that afraid of a murktide though, because if they murktide, I get to like Jace. They could have Mystical Dispute up. Maybe I'll just Iteration. That might get a dispute. And then the Jace might later resolve. Yeah, so there's the dispute. No, I will not pay. Let's see what you're drawing. Heat. Hearse. It's a hearse off, everybody. I mean, how can I not cast Jace here, right? If they got the Dispute or the Pierce, they got it. And do I Brainstorm or do I plus to play around Bolt? I think I'll plus. Okay, Jace, time to do some Jace things. Get the Expressive out of here. And I guess we'll go for Counterspell for the other one. If they crew their hearse, it's not quite big enough yet to go after the Jace. So that's for 2 currently. Murktide resolves. So let's exile Graveyard and heat the hearse, then bounce the Murktide. Jace down. Hopefully we can keep them off that murktide with this hearse, though. I'm gonna wait a turn on this murktide. My thought process being that if they have Mystical Dispute, I'd like to be able to pay for it. I may be punished for it by them just like drawing a counter spell, but I think I'll leave the I'll leave the Unholy Heat in the yard just to make a potential next Murktide better. Oh, I should have done one more exile to get it. Well, it doesn't matter. Heat is not a card. I was going to say out of heat range. Okay. Jace was pretty good that game, I have to say. Maybe this isn't so much about the Unholy Heats. I do feel like Ragavan is very important, though. It's very important to me to answer a Ragavan if they play a Ragavan. Maybe I can cut, like, one heat for a subtlety. Maybe I can just play, like, really risky and just hope they don't have the turn 1 Ragavan. Like, I feel like Subtlety is going to be a better long-term card. Especially with, like, all the Graveyard Hate we're each playing. But, like, Ragavan. Is there anything else I can cut? Murktide feels like an important card even with all the Graveyard Hate. Maybe Bobble's less important. Since we're not really doing DRC, it's just sort of like Ledger Shredder and Unholy Heat is the only reasons we want Bobble and like powering up Murktides. I don't know. I honestly don't know how to sideboard this matchup. I'll keep... It's kind of risky, but I feel like all the cards in my hand are like really important cards in the matchup. And we're on the draw. And we have the Consider. Like, the Bolt is really important if they have a turn 1 Ragavan. Which they don't. Okay. Don't think I want to draw that. Then again, do I want to leave myself open to a Dash Dragavan or a Ledger Shredder plus Bobble? think I think I'm going to be a little bit risky and consider that away. If they have a Ledger Shredder without a Bobble, it's not a big deal. If they don't play anything, that's good for us. I think I kind of just want to Hearse. I think, you know, they have Counterspell off, but I kind of want to... like, just start powering through it. Okay, no Counterspell. Not sure what they have, then. They might have Dispute. That could be part of it. Ledger Shredder, okay. No follow-up. No Pierce. Lightning Bolt me. Don't understand that play. Maybe opponent misunderstood how Ledger Shredder works and thought that that would trigger the Connive. Alright, let's see if we can hit a land drop. That's not surprising. They have a Jace, okay. That's not the end of the world, though, because that means we get to resolve a Murktide, and then we can just attack the Hearse into the Jace. So I actually think this is good for us. Okay, that's less good. Okay, so they're probably going to block here and then bounce the Murktide. But if we hit a land, we can Ledger Shredder into Consider and then crew the Hearse. DRC. Okay. Guess I'll lead on Consider. That's a tough one. I think I'm going to put it into the graveyard. Okay. So our life total is a little bit shaky at the moment.
Nicholas,
Yeah.
wrap it up soon.
Yeah, this is the last match. Wow, I'm amazed that they were actually able to get Delirium there. This Islet is pretty much not a land at this point. I think I'm supposed to Lantern and then Murktide. And then the question is, do I want to attack for 6 or do I want to make the hearse an 8/8? I think I'll hold back the hearse. Maybe I'm not supposed to Lantern here. Maybe I'm just supposed to tap everything. Yeah, if I do the Lantern, it gives them a Connive. I mean, like, Otawara is just going to be a huge blowout no matter what. So we can force the attack and then hearse afterwards. Unholy Heat. Really uncomfortable with how low my life total is right now. Counterspell their own Unholy Heat. Is this trying to do like Brazen Borrower and then win? Okay. Down to 2. 2 is not dead. Don't even know how I'm supposed to play here. This may be too risky, but I'm going to go Ledger Shredder and then bolt the DRC. Discard Hearse number 2. And so I can hold back to play around Ragavan, or I could just try and get in with the hearse. I don't know how much longer I can sit back. I'm really afraid of a Ragavan dash. But I'm gonna go for this attack. I guess I can attack with both and they're forced to chump. And so it's just Bolt, right? And Ragavan. Whew, that was a close one. And I'm literally at 1 life. Doesn't get any closer than that. Yep, that's fine. So past the turn, I've got Counterspell and Subtlety. Wow. Huh, that was a nail biter. Yeah. So clearly I still have a lot to learn with this deck, but the deck itself is very powerful, and deserves its place at the top tier of Modern. Alright, see everyone next time.